Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to the Co-op Podcast, episode 257. And Mr. Richard Bailey, he actually went to a wedding yesterday in Florida, so he's actually traveling back to Georgia right now as we speak. So big shouts to him. But I am here with Mr. J. James Lugo. How you doing, JJ?
I'm doing good, Gary. I'm back. I'm revitalized. I slept in today, so I'm all good. I'm ready to get on this.
Yeah, we haven't seen you in a while. Did you have a good birthday and everything?
Yes, I did. I mean, a lot of it also was the fallout from E3 because, again, E3 was a lot of work for me, Rich, Max. When we were out there, we posted up a lot of stories and stuff. So I needed some me time to kind of recover. But also, I had my 30th birthday, so I was pretty happy about that. I got myself a giant cookie cake, homemade, as well as a whole bunch of other cool little gifts, there that were gaming themed. So it was pretty dope. I had a lot of fun. But now I'm back. I'm ready to smack some heads, ready to drop some gaming news impressions on you, and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yep, let's get to smacking those heads. So, yeah, I'm also here with Miss Dana Abercrombie. How you doing, Dana?
Yay to bashed heads. I'm doing all right. Busy week. Excited to be here.
Good, good. So yeah, as you guys know, it's a very slow time of year for gaming news. E3 has already happened. All the blowout of news has already gone. So we're basically in the months where not much happens. There's not too many releases, and there's not too many headlines floating around either. So we are going to improvise. We're going to talk about some topics related to ethics in the gaming industry, and we've got an evergreen discussion as our main discussion as well. So yeah, it should be fun. We'll see how it goes. But firstly, let's talk about what we've been playing. Now, I'll go first because I haven't played that much. I've only played Overwatch. I played it on both PC and PlayStation 4 this week. I of course prefer PC, but it was pretty fun playing it with my friend Ramiz on PlayStation 4 because we don't really get to play much together. So just playing Overwatch with him was fun. And he's new to the game, so it was cool like having him get into the game and everything and learn about it and see what it's all about, see what all the fuss is about. So that was cool. I'm just awaiting for the new character Hammond to be officially released in the game because he is in the PTR, but he's not going to be in the main game until maybe another week, maybe even this week coming up. He might be put in. I'm also anticipating the Overwatch League finals, which are coming up too, and I will be at the grand finals, which is pretty cool. So looking forward to that. But besides that, I did play some Final Fantasy 7 too, just because nostalgia and everything. But nothing else really this week. So that's pretty much it for me. How about you, JJ? What have you been playing this week?
So I've been busy in my off time, even though I'm resting, technically I'm still working. And I've been playing a lot of games, a lot of which are games that are going to be given reviews on the website very, very soon, because they all kind of came at almost the exact same time. Funny enough, a lot of publishers have been sending games out like immediately after E3 because they know that people went to the show, got all the like big news out the way, and now they can focus on their games, which is kind of funny. So they all come in bulk. But a couple of which I'm still under embargo that I can't really give impressions on, but I could say that I'm playing them right now. I'm actually playing Tempest 4000 from Atari that came a couple days ago. I'm also playing Shining Resonance Refrain that came from Sega. So within the next couple days, as of Tuesday onward, you guys are going to be able to get reviews from me on the website, so you guys could look forward to that, especially if you like JRPGs or even just classic retro games. Besides that, there are other reviews that we have on the website right now, as well as also impressions that I've been playing for big games that have been releasing on various platforms, including on PlayStation 4. We have Red Faction Guerrilla Remastered, which is a stupid name. I understand. It's a terrible name. It should just be called Remastered, but because it's on Mars, you kind of get it, whatever. Whoever was the PR person that thought about that, smack them in the face for me. That's all I'm saying. But that actual review is up now on the website. You can check it out. If you played the original Red Faction Guerrilla, you have a lot of stuff that's going to be very familiar to you. It includes all the DLC and all the extra content and patches and stuff, but it's just now presented in a much better fashion. There's improved lighting. There's improved little textures here and there throughout the game. If you never really played it before, the easiest way I can describe it is that it's Grand Theft Auto on Mars with futuristic weapons. That's basically really the kind of gist of it. But again, a lot of it is a little bit dated, but it's still fun for a lot of people that are out there. And then finally, the other two games that I've been playing that are really cool because they came a little bit around the time of my birthday was Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy on Nintendo Switch. We have impressions of that now on the website that you guys could read up on. It's Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, has all the DLC, all the extra content, all the extra levels, everything that was on the other consoles. It's there for you, but now it's portable with the Nintendo Switch. And again, I love Crash Bandicoot. I did the original review for us a while back when the game came out last year, and I still love it. I still think it's fun. I still think it's dope. Definitely check it out if you love Crash Bandicoot and you have a Nintendo Switch and you want another good game to bring with you on the go. The other one that I got to check out, which is going to be getting some impressions probably in the next day or so because I wanted to play more of it and kind of complete it, was Wolfenstein 2 on Nintendo Switch. Now, I got a chance to see this back at PAX East last year, or no, earlier this year. And it was really, really cool. But now I actually got the full game in my hand. I've been able to play it. It's pretty damn dope for a game that's very big, that looks fantastic on the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, and the PC. I think it looks fantastic on the Nintendo Switch. Now, there are some little things here and there that they had to compromise in order to make the game run really well on the Nintendo Switch, especially in portable mode. But overall, I'm still having a lot of fun with it. But I'll have more impressions about that very, very soon. So that's what I've been up to as of late.
Wow, that's a lot. That's you've been very busy during your time away, which is very good. So I'm sure you'll have lots to talk about. But yeah, that's pretty cool. How about you, Dana? What have you been playing this week? You're muted.
I'm muted. I got to attend the Red Bull Conquest Championships. They was having a qualifier over down in Brooklyn, and so I've been watching a lot of that. They've been playing Tekken and also Street Fighter 5. Just having fun, you know. It's a great game to just let off some steam, and I've been watching them playing with the championships and just been doing that.
Oh, cool. Do you have any interest in those games like Street Fighter and stuff?
Well, see, the thing is, I grew up with Street Fighter. Like, that was the game that I was really allowed to play and I didn't have any problems with. So I really like it. And so to even watch the competition, during these championship matches, it was really fun. Kind of wish that you could start playing with them as well, but I'm not as skilled as they are. But at the end of the day, it's just all about having fun and I love watching people with different strategies and how they come up with their things that they're doing. And I have a couple of interviews that is coming up on the site that I have with a lot of the organizers and a lot of the hosts and some players.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, because I've never actually been to like an esports event yet. Obviously I'm going to the Overwatch thing, but that's always something that it like intrigues me, just seeing people play these games and master them on a professional level, like where they're able to do things that not the average gamer can do. Like that always kind of interests me. So I would love to like watch more of that stuff. I have seen a few tournaments and stuff at E3, but not like an entire event like that. So it sounds pretty cool.
Very passionate fans.
Yeah, I can imagine.
A little crazy.
I can definitely imagine. But yeah, is that all you've been up to?
Just that, and still trying to play some Incredibles, which is incredibly bad.
Incredibly bad. Okay, what's wrong with it?
It's just repetitive and boring, and it doesn't hold my interest.
Fair enough. So
which is
yeah,
sad, because I expected the game to be. Remember when Disney Infinity? Remember how they had their own incredible storyline?
I remember that. I have the figures.
And so I kind of expected that. And plus Lego never does me wrong, but Lego I don't know what happened. They had an off day. I just don't know. We all suffer that off day, but this was it broke my heart. It's not that great.
I'm curious to know what you're going to feel like about that when some of the other Lego games from E3 come out, because I know they have Lego DC Villains coming out very soon.
That can never do anything wrong. That's I don't care. It could be literally 1 minute.
Hello?
Yeah, I think we lost her for a brief second. Are you there, okay. Dana? Yeah, I think it's probably the internet connection. Yeah, but yeah, I was just saying that I'd be curious to see what her thoughts would be after that comes out, because there's very seldom you hear about bad Lego games, because I played a majority of them, not all of them, but like the majority of them I enjoy playing because they're very chill games. and stuff. And that's what I got the same thing when I saw DC Villains during E3 and stuff. So I'm surprised to see that the Lego Incredibles is kind of meh.
Yeah, it's a shame because the movie looks like really fun and stuff, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who are probably gonna play the game just because of that. So it's a shame that, you know, not many people are liking it.
Definitely.
But yeah, that's what we've been playing this week. So I guess let's dive right into the topics. We have a lot of different ethics to discuss in relation to the gaming industry and everything like that. So let's get into the first one, which I'm going to ask Mr. Jake James Lugo to break down for me, because you know, he was at E3. I believe he might have even seen this game we're going to be talking about. But yeah, JJ, what please let everyone know what happened with Cyberpunk 2077 and, you know, the person who decided to leak footage of it.
So yeah, so one thing I want to clarify was that during E3, I did not get to go see the game. I had the opportunity to, but because of the crazy schedule that we had while we were running around, it was me, Rich, and Max that went to E3 this year. Rich and Max actually got to see the presentation. They were there and they got to see the demo, and they told me about it afterwards. They even got the statue that was being given out to everybody for Cyberpunk, and it looks pretty dope, but they had nothing but great things to say about Cyberpunk itself because it was really that impressive. It was one of the few things that I said this year for E3 was an awesome surprise to see finally, you know, in the flesh, even though I wasn't there. But with that out of the way, the big thing that I wanted to discuss, and I feel like more people need to talk about this because this does concern, you know, the idea of covering games and what's ethically right and what's morally right and what's fair overall, was between SIFTD Games or SIFTD Gaming, which is another YouTube channel / media outlet that covers video games that's run by Patreon and all this other stuff. So I have no ill will against them, but, you know, just to set up, give you guys all the backstory and all the background info. But one of the people that was part of that outlet named Shane Satterfield actually got to go to the appointment for Cyberpunk 2077 with CD Projekt Red, alongside many other journalists, many other influencers and content creators that were there covering E3 and covering Cyberpunk 2077. At the very start of the presentation there, from what the guys had told me when they went and from what a bunch of other people told me when they went to their own appointments. What's up? Okay, Data, you there? We lost her. I thought that she was saying something. But anyway, basically, one of the first things that they were told when they went to the appointment was that they asked you nicely not to record anything, not to get any footage or any, like, you know, stuff there while you're checking out the appointment, while you're checking out the game and they're showing it off to you. Now, it should be understood that there was no NDA signed by anybody that went there. There was no type of agreements that were signed on paper, you know, to prevent people from doing so. But it was still one of those things that, you know, appointments that I've been to, and Gary, you've been to, and Dana as well, where you've gone to like a behind closed doors presentation and they ask you politely not to get any sort of footage there. You know, you can still talk about the game like openly online and stuff, but you can't show like video footage or audio or stuff like that. And what ended up happening was Shane Satterfield actually just recorded everything on his iPhone. He recorded audio of the actual event and cleaned it up, brought it back after E3, cleaned it up, and posted up on YouTube. It basically leaked out the audio. It's a lot of people say this isn't a leak, but it really is a leak, especially when it wasn't supposed to get out there in the fashion that it did. And he was blunt about it. He was very, very open about it. Of course, CD Projekt Red was upset. They strike down the video and the content that was out there. But by the time they already did so, people already got it and passed it around. It's the internet. Things get passed around all the time very, very fast. Even if it's up there for a very short period of time, somebody could find it. And it got sent around. And obviously you saw the headlines of CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077 leak, the audio, and like people that wanted impressions of the gameplay or what it was exactly that was shown during the behind closed doors presentation. Now, the reason why this is noteworthy to discuss is because Shane afterwards went on his YouTube channel, on his podcast and stuff with the rest of the people there, and gave his reasoning for doing so. And it was a very condescending line of rationale for why he did so. He tried to present this as doing real journalism. And personally for me, and I don't know about you guys, but I want to get your impressions in a second, that it was real journalism. For me, it wasn't. For me, it was something where you were blatantly asked to not to do something. You know, there was putting trust in you not to do something and, you know, allow you to do your content afterwards in exchange for access, but you ended up doing it anyway. And I think that's ethically wrong. I think that's a problem. And it sets a bad example, in my personal opinion, for other people that are part of the industry or want to get into the industry, into the field of covering video games, as media, as content creators, influencers, etc. Because Shane Satterfield, for those of you that don't know who that is, he's an OG person in games coverage, where he used to work over at G4TV.com or G4TV, the network, and a couple other places before SIFTD. And that's cool. More power to you and stuff. But I feel like when you're at that echelon, you should know better. You shouldn't have to do tactics like that, which a lot of people consider underhanded and very below the belt. You should be able to go up to the PR people that you claim to have such a good relationship with, a good working relationship with, and be able to go get exclusives by talking with them, being open with them, being able to get access to stuff like that, but at the same time, not abuse it and not take it for granted and not take it to a level where a lot of the trust gets violated or trust gets broken down, but also the level of character and the level of different types of I guess you could say credibility gets called into question, because for someone that's been in the game for so long, you shouldn't have to do something like that. And his rationale was that he wanted to get a leg up for SIFTD. He wanted to get more attention on SIFTD as an outlet, as a YouTube channel, in order to get more numbers, to get more credibility, get more exposure like that, which is totally true. And I could understand it. Again, he can't be sued or anything of the sort because he didn't sign an NDA and nobody else signed an NDA, but it's very underhanded and very shady and very questionable. So that's just where I stand on the matter. But I'm curious where Gary, where Dana stands on the matter. And obviously the chat, I want to see where your guys' thoughts are at with this.
Yeah. Now I like, from his perspective as being, a journalist who kind of wants to build an opportunity, be an opportunist and break a story. And, I can understand wanting to do that. But at the same time, when you get invited to see a game behind the scenes, like a Cyberpunk, you have to view that as a transaction kind of thing, kind of situation. It's like a business, transaction. So it's like they're inviting you into their space so that, you can see what they're offering with their upcoming game, and they trust you to respect that. And, obviously you can talk about it because everybody talked about, playing Cyberpunk on their podcasts and E3 discussions and all that stuff. And that should be good enough, so they do not expect you to record and leak something. If they politely ask you to do that, after they've invited you into their space, then you should definitely respect that, because that's going to definitely harm your future invitations that you get, and you might even get blacklisted from other companies who had nothing to do with this, just because, they don't want anything like that happening with whatever game they're showing behind closed doors. So yeah, from a business perspective, it was a bad move for sure. He definitely shouldn't have leaked it. But I can understand, fans and people who've been waiting for more information on the game. I bet they really loved that it got out because that's, more information to digest about the game that they're keeping from us and everything. And, as somebody who's ran a site kind of for like 10 years, I can understand wanting to create that opportunity to build growth in your audience and everything like that. But you have to go about it more tactfully and more respectfully so that you don't burn a future bridge, So that's my thoughts on that. But Dana, what do you think of the situation? If you're back.
I am back.
Okay.
I see two sides. I see two sides of the situation. Well, yes, we're in this world where, as journalists, you want to be very competitive and you want to be the first one to get the information out, right? And I do kind of understand that way. But at the same time, by breaking those people's trust, you're not going to be invited to any other place for a while. So then that way, congratulations, you got your one piece of information, but you ended up sacrificing many other chances that you could have had down the future. So that is what the problem is from that. I see from that end. Also, from the company standpoint, they should have had an NDA. Anytime that you want to make sure that your footage is going to just stay within that room, you don't go by distrust or a handshake or, yeah, I won't do anything. You sign the NDA. And they really should have had that NDA available for everyone. And I really don't understand why they didn't. So moving forward, I hope that they get together their NDAs, because this is not anything new. This is something that's going to happen repeatedly. And by companies, big companies and small companies. They're going to find a way to get that information out there first by breaking that do not record anything clause. So both parties, I feel, are equally guilty. But this guy, he screwed himself over, you know, more so because now he may not be invited to anything.
I want to add something to this that I feel like is very important, because this is something that Shane had said in his explanation, or like when he was talking about it on their podcast. He brought up a couple other names of other journalists and other media people that do break stories, that do break info in this industry, specifically being Patrick Kleptic over at Waypoint, as well as also Jason Schreier over at Kotaku, which I think Jason Schreier is really the one that breaks real stories. The man has ninjas, okay? One day I'll talk about that on another podcast. My point is that is two totally different things. I don't think like what Shane Satterfield did is in the same vein or even in the same league that what Jason and Patrick do. And the reason being is because Jason and Patrick do a lot of investigative reporting, and they get sources from people that are leaking information, but they're not themselves getting access to that information by the company letting them through or letting them into certain places, and then them just breaking that trust or just leaking out the info when they're asked not to. It's definitely not in the same vein. It is understandable where somebody would make that comparison, because again, they're getting that info from a source that technically is leaking info or breaking NDA, but that's not something caused by the person reporting the story. It's not something where the person is getting the info by like weird / unethical means, you know, by going into some place, agreeing to do something, then doing the opposite of it. It's a completely different can of worms. And there's a lot of different arguments that could be made for that. And if anything, like I said, it's much more ethically acceptable because they're the ones going out and getting sources from people that want to speak out on certain stuff. What Shane did was the complete opposite, in my opinion. And I think also, like what Dana was saying, and I've heard a couple other people say on various other different shows and podcasts, specifically Jared Petty, he came out and said, like, that guy probably will never get invited to another private event again. And I don't begrudge anybody that gets like that. And it's not because I have ill will towards Shane or anything like that. I don't know the dude. It's just that how can anybody really blame any other company, you know, publisher or otherwise, from not wanting to have someone like that at their event when they're trying to show off first impressions of a game or give information to the media, where they feel like, again, they can have a little bit of a controlling message of the perception of whatever their game is going to be. Not that they're trying to control the media, but like, you know, you can't blame Cyberpunk, CD Projekt Red for feeling a little bit pissed off, because remember when The Witcher 3 came out, everybody said that they revealed that game a little bit too early, and they admitted that because there were so many like bad impressions, I think, at one point, and like there was a whole bunch of mixed messaging. So obviously this was technically a reaction, I guess you could say, to that. But I also, like with Dana, I believe after something like this, especially next year or whatever CD Projekt Red's next game, or even other companies' games and future events, they're definitely going to be a lot more heavy-handed with NDAs. And they're going to definitely be a lot more heavy-handed with who they allow to go cover these games and check them out, because you can't blame them for wanting to prevent stuff like that from happening. And not only changing up the perception of their games, but also when it feels like someone that gets access to this stuff, or someone that they're being kind of open and being, you know, putting a lot of trust in, or just being, you know, honest with, that they're going to completely just flip the ball on them. And I think that kind of sucks for the company, because it's not like they're trying to be facetious. They're not trying to be bad or anything, but it's like, again, if you invite somebody to your house, you're putting trust in them that they're not going to do anything stupid. But if they go and they wreck up your house, or if they go in and start acting brazy like that, you're probably not going to invite them to your house anymore. You're not going to want to associate with them anymore. But the other thing also too, like I mentioned beforehand, but I want to reiterate, I don't like when, personally for me, I don't like when certain people in the industry, whether they have veteran status or when they are fairly new and stuff, where they talk down to other different people that are part of the same field. Like, obviously we're all colleagues and we're all, you know, comrades in some sort of way, because we're all covering games, we're all part of the same field and stuff. But I think it's kind of messed up to take a moral high ground when not only you're clearly wrong, but you want to downplay it, and you want to kind of like condescend the rest of the people that went to that appointment, or the rest of the people that have impressions or opinions about this, which is playing out in the public eye. I think that's not cool. And for someone like Shane Satterfield, again, I said it before, he should know better. You know, he should have a much more better understanding, a much more better or more solid and stable head on his shoulders than what I'm seeing here with how this story's playing out.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, this sort of thing could have an impact on, you know, other people, like other media attending E3, because let's say, for example, now a lot of companies start making it mandatory to make everyone sign NDAs whenever they're seeing something behind the scenes, you know, like you said before, like that's something we don't want to go through because it's already time consuming going back and forth through the convention center and, you know, making these appointments and everything. So like if you have to spend time filling out a form as well, an NDA and everything, like that's just only gonna add to all the hassle, you know, having to cover all these games and stuff. So nobody wants that. And it's things like this that bring about certain guidelines that these companies have to adhere to. So
I want to add one thing there. I don't think it's bad signing the NDAs. You know, in my own personal experience, because we've signed plenty of NDAs when we're covering games and stuff, and I don't think that in of itself is a bad process or a bad thing. If anything, it's just business, and it's again, it's an agreement where you won't do something in exchange for this type of access here, which really doing something being not opening up your big mouth when they reveal something early on. I think that's fine. What I think is the bigger issue and what really will be the fallout for events like this is not only the amount of people that get access to stuff. I think also the willingness of companies to be able to do this type of thing, to have behind closed doors presentation, because can you really blame CD Projekt Red for not wanting to show off the game at the next big event, like at Gamescom or something, or not want to show the game or whatever their next game might be, or any other company, whatever their big game might be at like E3 or something? If they just don't go to the event, or if they just don't show it, but they show it maybe at like the press conference and then that's it. You don't get to see anything afterwards. Like that's the type of stuff that I worry about. And that's the type of stuff that I feel like is much more impactful to everybody as a whole. The other thing too is that, again, it really fits back into the stereotype that people in games media are kind of, you know, backhanded, or they do shady stuff and all this other kind of like crazy stereotypes and messed up things that people say online on the internet because they already have a bad impression of games media, games journalists, and all this other stuff. This is the type of stuff that reinforces that, and it's messed up because not all people are like that. Again, it's one person that did this in a sea of all these other people that went to the same event, and all these other people understood and knew not to do something like this and didn't see the value in breaking that type of relationship, which, by the way, I think his relationship with CD Projekt Red is irreplicable. I would not be surprised if that's the case, but that's the type of stuff that I worry about personally.
yeah. Yeah, and of course we have to sign NDAs, but usually, like, because I'm more used to having to do it when I'm reviewing a game early or previewing a game, or I'm being sent some type of assets or game code or something like that. Like if you're at E3, it can kind of slow you down having to, like, you know, fill in paperwork and all that stuff. So that's my only point there. But yeah, I agree for the most part. But any final thoughts before we move on to the next topic?
Just one. Don't be that guy. You know, and I say that to anybody. And I know people that I went to that same event. They were very upset because, you know, seeing somebody do something like that, again, it affects really everybody in essence. And you know, the best thing to do is, one, don't be a dick, and two, don't be that guy. I think that, you know, a lot of respect, a lot of professional courtesy, you know, amongst all people in the industry, whether you're a YouTuber, whether you're a content creator, a games media person, or just someone that's just there at PR or wherever else. Professional courtesy goes a long way for everybody. And I think that, you know, when you take away the fact or take away the need for getting that 15 seconds of fame and that extra push like that, everybody could win and everybody could do amazing stuff. And you could still get ahead by not doing shady, underhanded, below the belt stuff like this. But that, again, that's my own personal opinion, not professional, my own personal opinion on the matter.
Indeed. Any final thoughts, Dana?
No, just the same thing that Jake said. Just JJ, you know, just be respectful and don't do this. I don't understand the purpose of them. It's on both sides. Have NDA, and also just don't ruin it for other people, because this ruins it for other journalists as well. Because then they might not have certain opportunities because they're afraid that it might be leaked.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So the next topic we have, you know, is another question about ethics, but this time around, you know, is based on somebody who actually works within, you know, a game publisher. So basically what happened was a Guild Wars 2 writer was fired after a Twitter argument. So what happened was Jessica Price, she was creating a Twitter thread expressing the difficulties of writing characters in MMOs as opposed to writing characters in single player games. So, you know, she thinks it's a lot more difficult to create these characters and write them in MMOs than in regular games. And this YouTuber, I'm not sure how to pronounce this actually, but I think it's Dario something. I think that's how you pronounce it. So he's a
Darrell.
YouTuber.
I think it's Darrell or Darrell. It's kind of like the Virtua Fighter 5 boss, Darrell.
Okay. Well, yeah. So he basically reached out to her. He replied to her Twitter thread, and he made a suggestion about branching out the dialogue options for the MMO character, you know, to make them more, in depth and more complex and everything. And Jessica Price reacted very negatively to the suggestion. She was pretty dickish about it. She said, basically the tweet went like this. So she said, "Today in being a female game dev, allow me, a person who does not work with you, to explain to you how to do your job." So she's basically, painting the picture that this guy is trying to tell her how to do her job when he really just wanted to kind of give, a suggestion on maybe something that, they could think about in terms of writing the characters and everything. So people saw that and thought it was kind of, dicky, kind of the wrong way for her to go about the response and everything. And she was being unfair to the guy. And she actually ended up, losing her job. She had to apologize as well for the statement. So yeah, this raises a lot of questions about ethics and what's okay, what's acceptable, because this is the digital age, and people have so much access to developers, writers, directors, actors, celebrities, you name it. So what do you guys think of this situation? And I'm going to start with you, Dana, being that, you're a female in the industry and everything. What's your thoughts on how she handled that situation? Was it right? Was it wrong? And what's acceptable?
My whole thing that I have with the situation is that I don't understand why she made everything so public. You can easily send someone a text message or an email, and to make it public just kind of made her look even more wrong. And I do understand what she was trying to say. And there are many times when men try to tell women what their jobs are and do the whole mansplaining. But to make it public just seemed to be even worse. So that on her end was kind of wrong. And she did come across as being, not exactly taking the news or the advice well. So I just think for her part, she could have handled it a lot better. And even though she apologized, and she apologized a second time, I just kind of felt that it wasn't sincere, and I think that it was something like she was trying to get her job back. So that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah. I mean, like, my thing is, like, she could have easily, like, if she was bothered by that, because the guy he was legit just trying to suggest something. But it's Twitter. You can just ignore him. You can not read it, not respond. Like you're not obligated to respond to everything on Twitter. Like I've had people troll me on Twitter, and I just like don't respond. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm glad you feel that way, and I just keep it moving. Like I think that would have been the best way to handle it. I mean, in general, I think if you are a creator or a writer of some sorts, you kind of have to have thick skin a little bit, because people are always going to try to critique you and come at you about things, like it's just part of what you do. Like people are always gonna, come at you because you're so accessible. But if these are things that do bother you, I think you just have to kind of like, just not pay attention to it and just don't give people attention, but I think in this guy's case, he was just, he was being legit in wanting to suggest things that could help. But I guess she just didn't see it that way.
I know, and the weird thing is that people suggest all the time about, things in games and what they should do. All the time. So I just don't understand what was her reasoning behind interacting with this person.
Yeah.
And we all say things, me, bring back No Mercy. That's not happening. But you don't see me having like Twitter wars and attacking people for that. I just don't understand the whole thing behind her reasoning.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on it, JJ?
There's a couple layers to this, and I think that a lot of this goes back to the environment that we're in right now, both on social media and just in the industry in general. The one thing that subreddit and even the story that we were looking at that really talks about was that it may, or the writer, the woman that was in question here, really made the whole issue about gender when the guy that was making the statement on Twitter and the thread really wasn't getting caught up on that at all. And that's a problem that I see with a lot of different issues. Like, obviously we're in a time when there's a lot of ethical questions about, you know, women in gaming, you know, the roles and a lot of the other conversations that come with it all over the place. The problem is that for whatever reason now these days, it always becomes a super hostile thing and gets into stuff that is probably outside of whatever the issue might be at hand. In this case, you know, where they're talking about the writing of MMO characters and just making them a little bit more different or trying to make things a little bit better. Where in that whole conversation did it have to be about a guy quote unquote mansplaining to a female dev or a female writer in the industry? Because as many times as I read that response or that thread from that person, from that YouTuber at all, I never got that whatsoever. And I think that, you know, some people, whether it's because they don't want to hear feedback or they don't like the idea of being criticized for whatever their thoughts are on a public forum like Twitter, like that, they want to go from 0 to 60 immediately. And I think that's a huge problem. And it's become more of a huge problem when we get into some of the conversations like this, because we can't have intellectually honest conversations about stuff without somebody either getting offended or somebody getting really hostile on the matter. There was no reason for it to get to this point. And I don't have any sympathy for the two writers that were part of this thing, you know, whether it was the original writer here, which was Jessica Price, or her colleague that ended up getting let go from the company. Because two things: number one, there are consequences for your actions, especially in a public forum. And if you're representing a company, you know, talking about the stuff that the company does to people that are fans within the community of said company. I think that's a lot of the stuff that gets lost on people when they get into things like this, that they don't really think before acting. We were talking about this earlier before recording, and I was saying that a lot of that list stuff that came from DC and Warner Brothers in relation to the DC universe or the DC movies and stuff, they have a whole series of guidelines for people that get involved with those projects, you know, as far as interacting with people on social media and interacting with the public and stuff. And it's not rules or anything, but it's guidelines to help you kind of like navigate these types of waters. And really at the core of it is that no matter what, you're a public figure, you're in a public forum, people are following your stuff. You have to accept the fact that they're going to have opinions and criticism or whatever else, thoughts on the work that you do. But you don't necessarily need, and you shouldn't get super hostile to the point where you're combating them on social media. That's what I see right here. And, you know, all honesty, she put herself in that position. The easiest thing that one could have done in something like this, which is always the easiest solution to any of the issues that pop up like this, is to not respond or to block. If she really had a problem with that guy really giving suggestions, which is really what they were, but if she felt like she was being attacked or her work was being attacked or she felt a certain way about it, why not just block the individual? Like, why not just, you know, mute them? Those are what those tools are there for. The other thing too is that what I don't like is how the other person that ended up getting let go ended up taking shots and making statements about the whole situation, which really didn't help the whole thing at all. It really just added more fuel to the fire. And I feel like that in of itself is a whole nother issue, a whole nother layer to this matter, because when you see something like that, if your colleagues at a company and you see things like going south for whatever reason, especially if it's not so crazy where the other people are not sending death threats to people, you know what I mean? I don't think you should really kind of be so quick to put yourself into that situation, because look what ended up happening. Both people ended up getting let go from the company, and the company had to make a statement. And I think it sucks for the company themselves, you know, for the publisher or the developers of Guild Wars. Itself, really, it puts them in a really weird position, because how do they respond to something like this? Because those two actions, which they might be just representative of those individuals, are now being used to represent the entire company as a whole, even though people might have had nothing to do with it. You know, ArenaNet might have had nothing to do with it at all, but everybody's going to have those impressions, and those are going to be the headlines in other different places. And it kind of sucks all around, all because a few people just either didn't think, or because they just didn't understand that this is social media, this is a public forum, and that you have to be the bigger individual in situations like this. But that's just my thoughts on the matter. I think it's all, the biggest part though is that it's a product of our time, and it's just the hostile nature of certain conversations being had, or the hostile nature of certain reactions from people in relation to certain conversations being had right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, do you think ArenaNet handled it like, how you would expect them to? Like, because some people like criticize this where like ArenaNet probably should have stuck up for, their writer a bit more, like in the situation and not fired them and stuff like that. So, like, do you feel like
No, no, I think they handled it perfectly fine. And that logic to me is flawed because their writers were totally in the wrong. Like when you go and you read that actual Twitter thread about what that YouTuber put on there, that wasn't anything attacking the character or anything of the sort of that particular writer. It wasn't attacking her at all. And she was totally in the wrong. She took it to a place where it didn't need to go to, and it was clear as day. And the fact is also she retweeted and kept going. I think that's where ArenaNet found themselves in a position where I feel like they responded the best way that they could. Because if you have someone that's being kind of insubordinate and it's someone that's clearly, not following the guidelines that you might have internally, because obviously I don't think we know internally what it's like for them to interact with different people on social media and the community and stuff. But if that was the case, I mean, how else do you really expect them to respond? I mean, because then the conversation, if they would have stuck up for them, knowing this and everybody could clearly see it on a public forum, then it would have been like, oh, ArenaNet is going up against fans in their community, or they're not for making games or not for actually having a good relationship with those that are within their community. That would have been the conversation afterwards. And I don't think that they wanted to be part of that, let alone any of this type of stuff. So it kind of sucks for them. They're in a lose-lose situation. Do they either, cater to the community, which buys their games, or do they cater to these few writers that are being brazy on Twitter? And I think personally for me, I think they made the right decision, or at least the one that made the most sense for that time.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like they went about it the right way, for sure. And I think this is a lesson to, anyone who's in, part of a team, a company or a bigger company. I think you should definitely monitor how you respond to people, especially people who are consuming the products that your company's putting out and everything like that. You need to, be wary of how you conduct yourselves, in matters of critiquing and feedback and things of that nature. So I think either don't respond to it or, just be respectful, about it. And I think that respect needs to be on both sides too, because you do have people on, the other side, like gamers or whatever, who will they'll be dicks too. They'll try to give you criticism, but in a foul way, and they'll be disrespectful about it. So that respect has to be there on both sides. And in this case, it clearly wasn't respectful on the end of the writer. So yeah, I think ArenaNet handled it the right way. But any final thoughts on that topic before we move on?
No, I'm good.
Cool. So yeah, please explain this whole Twitch streamer controversy, because I know Polygon put up an article about this, but I didn't actually get to check it out. So let me know a bit about this, JJ.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look up right now really quickly, like the exact names and stuff. But to kind of give you guys a clear overview of like what's been going on, and then as we discuss, I'll give you the exact info. But basically, there's been a lot of discussion now about Twitch and certain streamers on the platform, and you're seeing a lot of different articles, specifically from Polygon, that are coming out and having conversations about, okay, is it really where the community is kind of being, or the Twitch community specifically, and the audience is really being kind of facetious and really against a lot of these types of streamers, which a lot of people call them thoughts or Twitch thoughts, which is basically just women that stream online on Twitch and playing video games, but a lot of their content, a lot of the focus is on their sexuality. There's a lot of on their outfits, on them revealing themselves a little bit to an extent, without being within the realm of porn and stuff. But like they're playing video games, but just using their bodies and using their looks in order to get attention, and also specifically money. And a lot of people have a very opinionated stance on it on both sides. Some are against it, some are for it, for many different reasons. But one of the things that I saw and what a lot of the conversation that's been coming up is that a lot of outlets, Polygon and a few other places, seem to be defending the practice, or at least the idea of people being quote unquote Twitch thoughts, or, women that are on there using their bodies for whatever profit when it comes to playing video games and stuff. Now, while in of itself, it's not anything like too bad. Like there are Twitch guidelines that are being put out that are out there now that kind of really get into the idea of like, okay, you're not supposed to have overly sexualized content when you're playing games like that, or really kind of like, you know, much more adults only type of content is not really allowed on Twitch and stuff. And I understand that argument and stuff, but really in essence, it's still people that are still just playing video games. They're just putting whatever twist on it in order to get attention, in order to get eyes on their actual content and stuff. But really, you know, the conversation that I really want to focus on is like, is it really okay, or is it really right for a lot of outlets to really kind of defend this type of practice, or really say that it's really the audience kind of being against, quote unquote, against women or against people that are doing stuff like this when they're really just trying to make their content out there? Is it really kind of like ethically right to do that? I mean, again, I don't know if you guys really got to read the article that I saw on Polygon, which was defending a few of them. And again, I'll get the names in just a second. But to me, it's like this has been a conversation that's been lingering around for quite some time. Like I want to say over the last couple of years since Twitch has really become a thing, you know, outside of YouTube. And you could even throw YouTube into the mix there, because obviously no matter what entertainment medium, sex sells and it gets a lot of attention. And clearly there's a lot of different individuals out there that have seemed to utilize that well in order to generate big audiences like that. But again, a lot of people have different opinions on stuff, but I'm curious where you guys are on the matter.
Wait, so is the issue that some people think it's wrong that you know, these gamer girls are on Twitch and, you know, kind of you know, exposing themselves a little bit to try and gain?
That's one part of it. That's one part of it. The other part, which I think is really kind of pertains more to the article, is that is it really right for outlets to come out and say that, you know, it's the audience, you know, openly attacking these types of individuals, or openly trying to make sure that they write articles to defend them? You know, for example, again, like some of the different names escape me right now, but like CERN, you'll see articles come out as be like, oh, such and such is doing whatever types of stream, and she's standing up against hateful, bigoted individuals and stuff. Like you see articles like that come out a lot, you know, not just from Polygon, but in a bunch of other places as well. And the narrative becomes that it's the audience against women streamers trying to just make a living. That's really how they try to spin the article, or try to spin the whole situation like that. Is it really right for places to do stuff like that, or is that really the big issue at hand, or is it something completely different?
I mean, I think there is it can be seen as pandering depending how it's done. Of course, every case is probably unique and different in its own way, depending on what the, you know, the person writing the article.
Sorry to interrupt, Gary. I got the name for you. It's actually Amarath. Is the name that the Polygon article was actually written about. And the whole thing that they tried to spin it was that is the reaction to these types of individuals, is that considered harassment? Or is that like the big issue here is where it's harassment of these individuals that are making this type of content?
Okay, so they're basically saying like, are they harassed like because, you know, people criticize them for what they do? Is that what they're trying to say? Or
because, well, they're trying to spin it either like that, or they're trying to spin it because they're women, that all of a sudden the audience is reacting because they're against women being on the platform or being in games and stuff like that. That's really what they're trying to spin it like.
Okay, well, yeah, there's two ways, because I mean, everybody's free to do what they want. You know, Twitch is an open platform. You know, so if women want to get on there and do, you know, if they want to be explicitly dressed or whatever, or like, you know, that's them, that's what they do, and they have their own audience that follows and supports that. So I don't think it's right to judge that if somebody does want to do that, because as long as that streamer is within the guidelines of the Twitch platform, they're technically not doing anything wrong. They're just building their audience, they're staying in their lane, and they're doing their own thing. Now you can make your own personal judgments about what they're doing, but you know, I don't think it's right to try and out them, or on a public level, or, you know, to try and you know, send hate their way or anything like that, because that basically that's just hating. You know, like, it's not wrong to hate on them for it. It's just, you don't have to subscribe to it. You know, you don't have to view it. You can view something else, like, you know. So I just feel like it's a senseless argument to me, because it's like, just let them do what they do and focus on what you like. And as for the media always has a big responsibility, because they can sway a narrative, and, you know, every article has its own agenda behind it, kind of, somewhat. So you know, it really depends on what the motivation behind it is. Now, in this case, it seems like Polygon was trying to, you know, defend the streamer's rights and say that, you know, It's not right to kind of harass them and attack them for what they do and everything. And in that regards, I agree, because it's like, let them do them,
You know something though, Gary, and where I get caught up on it, even though I really don't care what a person does for their content stuff, do you at the end of the day. What I really get caught up on, and I find a little bit disingenuous, is that different outlets, whether it's Polygon or otherwise, when they write about stuff like this, or when writers kind of put their opinions about it and talk about these subjects, they try to make it out like the entire platform is against these types of individuals, whether it's against women, whether it's against quote unquote Twitch thoughts or whatever else it wants to be. They try to make it like the vast majority of people that are out there are doing like this massive hate mob or massive groups of stances against these types of people. And I find that to be disingenuous, because a lot of the people that I see, whenever the conversation comes up, a lot of people don't really care. Like, I think that the majority of people are like, yo, that is kind of, weird. And it gets into a lot of gray area, but I don't think it's like they're actively against whatever this individual's out there. Even when you get it to talk about money, because a lot of the focus in that Polygon article is really talking about money, where they're, again, using the body for attention in order to get different people to donate like thousands of dollars to a specific individual. Like, you'll see YouTube videos of people putting stuff out there like that, where you'll see people get donations of like $30,000 on a stream, to some random female streamer who's being like that and stuff. And I think that gets to a whole nother debate and argument and stuff. But I just don't like it, for me personally, where I see like the outlets try to paint this like really broad picture of like this audience that just is like this massive hate mob against this type of streamer or this type of content creator.
Okay, yeah. So with that extra layer of context there that you added, I do believe that, and that's why I said it depends on the agenda of the article, because there is pandering, and if they're trying to convey that everybody is attacking the person when clearly they're not, and they're just trying to create this narrative, then that is definitely called pandering. And we live in a time where people are very conscious about feminism and things of this nature, and there are outlets like that who will try to use that to their advantage and pander to these movements, and that just adds a lot of fuel to the fire, and it creates unnecessary drama. So in that case, yes, if the article was pandering, I am against that, because it's like, if it's not a huge problem, then just let it be what it is at the end of the day, until an actual situation arises that you can cover, and also you're kind of taking attention away from other things going on in the gaming industry, and perhaps it's because it's a slow time right now why they did this, but there's still always more that could be discussed in terms of video gaming. So
I think it becomes tough, like, really to discern which is which like that, whether it's pandering or if it's like actually trying to have a conversation and stuff. And I think now more often than not, within the last couple of years, that's become a lot harder to do with a lot of stories that come out, especially in the wake of like all the different hashtags and all the other crazy conversations that have come up. Again, we live in a very hostile time on social media when it comes to certain topics. And I think that is where people start to become fed up, because they always feel like they're being forced a certain type of, like, whether it's an agenda or a certain type of perspective on certain things, rather than just being informed when it comes to articles that are reporting on stuff like this. Like, again, personally, for me, I don't care about this type of content that's out there. And I feel like you're always going to have that no matter what type of medium or entertainment section you're going to be in and stuff. But I think it's wrong to really kind of point the finger at a massive audience when the majority of people, I don't think, feel like that.
yeah, exactly. Dana, do you have any thoughts on the subject?
No, basically, this just seems to be this is a very unfortunate situation on both sides. I mean, I feel that the reason why she's getting these attacks is, yes, because she's a female, and that tends to happen everywhere, even on podcasts. And by Polygon and other news sources bringing this to light, yes, it does shed light on what women have to go through and what they face, but also at the same time, it does cause more harassment for her. And the people that I know are upset because she's making more money and she's getting a lot of sponsorship because in their mindset she's single and she's, you know, she's dressing up a certain way, and so it creates this type of fantasy for them. And when they found out, I know it was an incident when they found out about her relationship status and that she lied about it, that it created even more harassment. And this is something that women kind of go through on the daily. And the thing with Polygon, you know, it's one of those situations where you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So I really just don't know. I really don't know what she can do in the future and what Polygon should do. I mean, they are, at the end of the day, they're reporting what's going on, and they're reporting that women are being harassed, especially this woman here, and there are other women that are being harassed by big time Twitch streamers and YouTube streamers as well. But it's just one of those situations. I don't think that there is a win on any side. There's no positive way out of this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a touchy subject, and I feel like there's bigger narratives that should be addressed in the industry before this, because Twitch is a very it's an open source platform. You're free to do whatever you want, create whatever content you want. You run your own channel. You can ban people, if you wish to. So it's like, what exactly is the narrative that they're trying to create by putting out this article here? Because I don't see, I mean, I haven't experienced personally, Twitch women, being attacked and everything like that. But I'm pretty sure it does go on. But yeah, I mean, until we actually get to analyze a case of this, it's hard to really, discuss it from my point of view. So yeah, I mean, it just depends on the narrative that they're trying to create, because it can be seen as pandering a lot. But any final thoughts on that before we move on to the entertainment segment, which I'm looking forward to? No final thoughts?
No, I'm good. I think that this is always going to be a thing that comes up at some point, but I don't think a lot of people are really going to ever agree on the matter. I think it's always going to be hostile.
Yeah, issues like this are always going to be prevalent in the industry, unfortunately, because I miss the days where we only had to worry about, games and when they're coming out and, what people think of them. But nowadays, in this digital age, there's just so much going on that, we have to pay attention to. And it's like, it seems really pointless to me. But yeah, so let's jump right into the entertainment news for this week. So Dana, which topics do you have for us today?
All right, I have a couple. I'm going to go through them really quickly because there's the big main one. So really quickly, we have, we're getting a spinoff. Those who don't know, we're getting the Men in Black spinoff. Sony is going to do it. They added 4 new cast members. Kumail Nanjiani, he's from Silicon Valley. Rafe Spall, he's from Life of Pi. He was the Indian guy from Life of Pi. Also, it seems that we're not getting a sequel or even a prequel. What we're getting is more like we're getting something that's in the same universe. Okay, so Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones will not be in the movie at all. It was supposed to be the 21 Jump Street crossover with the Men in Black 3, but Jonah Hill was like, oh, it's too complicated, so they completely dropped that idea. And so we're getting this instead. The new Men in Black film, which is untitled, will be directed by F. Gary Gray, who did Straight Outta Compton.
Wait, F. Gary?
F. Gary Gray.
Oh,
he thought you were talking brazy for a second.
No. Basically, it's going to take place in the same universe. So it's going to expand on all of the aliens that we were introduced to during the... So that should be interesting if anyone cares about that. Also, we're having, as you know, we're getting the Aquaman thing that's coming out really soon. However, one of the actors, Yahya Abdul Manti II and Sarah Vickers from Aquaman. They have joined the cast of Watchmen. Watchmen is now going to be a pilot for HBO. What they did say is that it's going to be 12 episodes, and that we can expect a whole new story with new faces. So we're not getting basically the Watchmen movie, the series. We're getting a whole new adaptation. So, yay. And it's going to remix all of the ideas that were in the previous comic books. And the cast already is Jeremy Irons, Regina King, Don Johnson, Lil Gossip Jr., Tim Blake Nelson, Andrew Howard, Francis Fisher, and Jacob Mintrent, and Tom Minson. So if you know who any of those are, yay, we're getting those. Also, we finally have a premiere date for The Gifted Season 2. Remember, that was the X-Men spinoff. It did really well on Fox. It's coming back on Tuesday, September 25th. And along with the premiere date, you guys can check online. There's a lot of character posters, and it's supposed to be really nice. But they didn't really go into detail as to what's going to happen in the second season. A lot of things is in a lot of secrecy, but we're going to get more of the Mutant Underground. And those who watched previously, remember, they're divided on the aftermath of the season finale. But they're going to have new characters, and they also have a new showrunner. And we're going to get the Morlocks on the show. So, anyone's happy for that? Yay. American Horror Story, we're having a new season. Those who don't know, it's going to be a crossover between Murder House, which was season 1, and Coven, which was season 3. The 8th season will debut on September 12th on FX. They have not released any details of whatsoever, aside from it takes place in the future, and it may or may not involve aliens. So if you're into aliens and the weirdness of Ryan Murphy, that's good for you. Now, the big news is we are getting a new DC Universe streaming service. Now, it's not just a streaming service like you see Netflix, where you're going to have the TV shows of, any of the DC stuff or even the movies. What it does is it's going to combine all of the comics. So you're getting movie, TV show, and comics. And it's going to be digital. So if you got your iPad, your iPhone, your Android, you can look up and read all of the digital comics that they have in their storage. Basically, what they said is that it's going to slowly roll out. So you're not going to get all of the comic books right now. It's going to be a slow rollout of stuff. And they're going to go within the back catalog and work their way up. So you're going to get a lot of the comics from the 30s and the 40s and the 60s. And then, as it keeps rolling out throughout the months, it'll be more updated. So those who are excited about that, yay. They have not released a price, though. That's the one thing that we're waiting for. But they did say that we're going to get Batman the Animated Series, a remastered cut of Linda Carter's Wonder Woman, all of the Christopher Reeve films, all the Superman films that he did. We're going to get Titans, which you guys know, it's a new TV show that looks like really crappy. But we're getting Titans, we're getting Doom Patrol, and we're going to get also Swamp Thing, which is going to be really interesting how they do it. Also, Cyborg. Many people are like, well, where's Cyborg? Because he's not in Titans, but he will be in Doom Patrol. So anyone who's excited for that, yay. Doom Patrol is going to also have Robot Man, Negative Man, Elasti-Woman, Crazy Jane, Dr. Niles, and they're going to all come together. And it seems like Cyborg is the one that's going to be the leader this time. So anyone's excited about that. Swamp Thing is also going to be very dark. It's going to follow a bunch of heroines as they travel to Louisiana to investigate a strange swamp-borne virus, only to discover there's more magic and danger in the bayou than could have ever been realized. So those who are excited, we're getting that. And then on top of that, we're going to get the Harley Quinn animated adult cartoon. So this is mature. It's not meant for your kids. There's going to be a lot of violence, a lot of sexual activities that's going to go on. They're going to keep up with the same kind of humor, but they're saying it's not going to involve, it's not for your kids at all. So anyone who's excited for that, I think that's like the one thing that I'm excited for. Also, it will be available. The DC Universe is going to be available on iOS, Android, Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and Android TV, as well as through the service website. So anyone who's looking to play on their PlayStation, to watch on their PlayStation or their Xbox, you're not getting that right now. You're not going to get that. But the original series, I'm going to just break it down really quick because it's the list that they finally released. So the original series is Titans. That is a live action. Doom Patrol is going to be animated. Swamp Thing, animated. Young Justice Outsiders, animated. Harley Quinn, again, animated. And what they said with Swamp Thing is it's gonna be like a weird hybrid of animated with live action. Now, the classic movies and TV shows right now, that's gonna be the first thing that rolls out is gonna be Superman 1 through 4, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, Batman Ninja, which I knew a lot of people didn't like, Birds of Prey, The Flash 1990 version. So all of the current CW shows, they're going to stay on the CW. They're not going to be involved in this service. We're getting Teen Titans, Super Friends, Legion of Superheroes, Young Justice, Static Shock, Lois and Clark, Constantine, the 2014 one. So remember that TV show that didn't last really long because NBC sucks and they canceled it? We're getting that one. The Adventures of Superman, Max Fletcher's Superman serials, Superboy, Batman the Animated Series, Wonder Woman 77. For the animated movies, we're getting All-Star Batman, Batman vs. Robin, Batman Year One, Batman Beyond the Return of the Joker, Green Lantern First Flight, Gotham by Gaslight, Justice League Doom, Justice League versus Teen Titans, Superman Doomsday, Wonder Woman. The comic book series are 52 from the 2006 run. Action Comics, the 1938 run, the Adventure Comics, 1958 run, Aquaman, 2011, Batman, 2002, Cyborg, 2015, Deathstroke, 2014, Detective Comics, 1939, Green Arrow Year One, 2007, Green Lantern, 2011, Harley Quinn, 2013, JLA, 1997, Justice League, 2011, My Greatest Adventures, 1963, Suicide Squad, 2011, Batman, Superman, 2004, Swamp Thing, 1972, Teen Titans, 1967, The Flash, 2011, and Wonder Woman, 2011. So that is everything so far, which doesn't sound as bad as I originally thought it would be, but we still don't have a price. We need a price.
I hope it's not expensive because this could do a lot of good for DC entertainment in general. I think also they're doing themselves a huge disservice by setting themselves up not to cross over with Teen Titans between the other CW shows, because I feel like a lot of those live action series should have the potential to cross over with each other because people want that, and I think that it would work in their favor to do so, because that's the best part. If you look at a lot of the big crossover events for the CW shows, those are always big deals.
Right. And also, for those who care about high def, it's going to be in high def. It's going to be, you can watch it on your special 4K thing. Remember I said they're going to remaster the Batman animated series. So it's going to be in high definition. So that is going to be launch day. They want that to be their main thing. And we still don't have a date on when it's going to roll out. But when it does, that's going to be, that's their selling point, is Batman the animated series. And so is Linda Carter's Wonder Woman. That's day one as well.
So, would you say the CW is basically their MCU, where all these characters kind of are in the same universe and crossover and stuff like that?
I think they get the same treatment as Marvel does. Remember, their TV shows and their movies don't interact at all.
Right.
But their TV shows interact with each other. But in terms of the streaming service, I think that they're going to view that as a whole separate universe.
Yeah, I mean, it could have potential. I mean, but seeing some of the stuff we've seen, the behind the scenes images and stuff, it doesn't look good production wise, but like the idea of it has potential. So I think if they can nail it and get it right, this could be definitely be good for them.
Yeah, it can be. And I think so, because what they're trying to do with this with the DC Universe streaming service is they're trying to create their own separate thing. So they're going to have, they announced they will have crossovers. So you know how that we get Arrowverse on CW? They're going to have, I don't know what you would call it, DC Crossverse, but they're going to have their own crossover thing. Like, for example, they did announce that Titans is going to have a spinoff, which ends up being Doom Patrol. So
I think they're doing a huge disservice. Like, they have so much going for themselves now on on the CW side of things with that whole DC universe setup, that, man, they really need to come up with a better idea as far as like putting them all together and making them connected.
But they're not. But the thing is that they're separate, though. So how is it a disservice? I mean, you're creating. It's going to be technically you're looking at 3 separate universes, because you have what's going on in the movies.
But that's my point. That's my point, though, because they have 3 separate things going on at that point. Like, why not connect them a little bit more? So, like, kind of like what Marvel does, where at the most you have 2 things going on with Marvel. You have the movies and you have the Netflix stuff. And I feel like, with DC, they have such potential, especially with all the multiverse types of stuff, to have cool, amazing crossovers where things could be a little bit more consistent, that people can follow, that it becomes way too much when you're having all these different things. Because I don't think a lot of people are all going to jump on this, especially now that we still don't know the price point for the streaming service. I feel like people are still going to be hesitant, because keep in mind, these are the same people that are probably already have a Netflix account. They probably have other accounts as well besides cable TV and stuff online. Like, there's a lot of different factors where I feel like it's setting themselves up for a little bit more of a disappointment than of giving themselves a W. Like, I just feel like, again, it would be more beneficial to them to find different ways to connect everything a little bit much more easier.
I mean, yeah, and but there were rumors that the service is only going to be around $9.99 to $10. Those are rumors, though. So
I'm still suspect of that, because, again, even though that's the same thing as like a Netflix account and a little bit cheaper than like an HBO Go account and stuff, again, that's a whole nother service that people still have to commit to. Yeah, again, the diehard DC guys are going to be in on this. I get it. And that's totally cool. But again, I feel like there's some other stuff maybe that they should try to figure out or try to do to make it a little bit more easier, or at least get it into more people's consciousness.
Yeah.
Did you have any other entertainment topics?
Well, those who don't know, when we're going to get the Captain Marvel movie, remember, it's going to take place in the 90s. Now, we've seen a lot of them digitally age or digitally make young the actors, such as Michael Douglas, and we had Michelle Pfeiffer and others. They're going to de-age Samuel Jackson 25 years. So they've been working on the technology to make it consistent for the entire movie.
So he's going to look like Pulp Fiction?
Basically, it's going to kind of look like Pulp Fiction, or maybe, was it Die Hard with a Vengeance? Wasn't that like 25 years ago?
I hope they keep the afro. That would be cool. But yeah,
he'll have eyes. Remember, he has his eyes, so no patch.
Yeah, that should be interesting to see how they handle that. But also, you guys heard about Idris Elba being casted in the Fast and Furious spin-off movie, right? So it's going to be The Rock versus Idris. I think that's going to be pretty awesome in terms of those 2 actors going at it on screen.
That should be fun. And it's nice to see him do that. Yeah. Even though he's the other franchise he was in, because he complained about it too much. So we'll see how he does in this one.
I'm sure he'll be killed off. Like, Idris Elba is killed off in like almost every movie he's in. So
it's because he's unappreciative. But yeah, he's going to play the villain in this as well. So that should be fun. And also, Kerry Russell is going to join Star Wars Episode 9, which is coming December 20th, 2019. And they started filming Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey is basically the all-female villain version that DC is doing with the woman who played
Margot Robbie.
Harley Quinn.
Yeah, Harley Quinn and Margot Robbie.
Harley Quinn. That's going to start in January, so that should be really fun.
I'm still suspect of that, honestly. I'm still very, very suspect. I'm gonna watch it like all the other projects and stuff. But again, that's another project where I'm still a little bit worried.
Like, I'm gonna watch it, but I don't know. And Keanu Reeves is in talks to do John Wick 3.
Well, yeah, they should definitely do a John Wick.
They're already doing it because it has a title already.
Well, yeah, it's like, well, it was working on the contract negotiations.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So yeah, and Nicolas Cage is going to be in Spider-Man Into the Universe. Well, Spider-Verse.
Yeah, he's playing the Norse Spider-Man, which is pretty kind of interesting.
It's going to be pretty interesting. I saw like a good chunk of the movie. Sony did like this huge preview thing. And when I say it's amazing, it's amazing. I just sat there and just cried. The animation is just gorgeous. And the voice acting so far, though, what they got is, it feels just, everything feels so natural.
I have a question about that. I have a question about that. What? Maybe you would know better than me, Dana. It's that not too long ago, didn't the director go on like a thing on Twitter that people were really pointing at not too long ago? There was like something where he was like really like wilding out on Twitter that people were calling into question, like, okay, what is going to be the response to people going to go see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse at this point? Like, do you guys know what I'm talking about? It was like over a week ago.
Oh no, these are are you sure? Because I know that this is Phil Lord and Christopher Miller.
Okay, the thing I'm talking about, again, I don't have it in front of me, but there was either the director or the EP of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse went into like some type of tirade on Twitter about some random stuff that really rubbed people the wrong way. And there was a bunch of articles that were coming out asking like, okay, is this like little thing that he just did going to affect the response to the movie when it finally comes out? Because I saw a lot of people saying like, oh, because of this type of thing, I'm going to be a little bit more cautious or back away from seeing the movie completely. Like, it was a really, really nasty bunch of stuff that he went on at some point. Like, again, I don't have the specifics in front of me, but I know it was like some time ago, a little bit more than a week ago that came up.
I hope not, because it's a really gorgeous movie and everyone should see it.
It looks dope. Like, seeing the trailer, I was saying to myself, like, okay, this looks like a really cool concept for a Spider-Man movie, and it's different from what we're getting in the live action movie, so I'm all down for it. But it was like, I remember seeing that and people were calling that into question.
No, I haven't heard anything, but I hope it doesn't affect it.
I'm gonna look for the article so that way you can check it out later, so that way you can see what I'm talking about.
No, the only issue that I can only see people having an issue with is that it's Miles Morales, but there are other Spider-Mans because it's Spider-Verse. And so the only like thing that I heard was like, oh no, it's the Black Spider-Man. They're taking over. But other than that, no. I haven't heard anything.
Cool. I'll definitely be looking out for that because I heard good things about it. I remember you talking about it when you first went to see it. So
it's so amazing. I just sat there and was just like the animation, the script, and these are like two nerdy white guys, and they got exactly what it's like to live in New York City. They got the dialect of how, you know, African Americans and Puerto Ricans speak. And they made it really funny. These are the same guys that did the Lego movie. So they know what they're doing. They just really embraced the whole comics. And so far, I'm telling you, it looks really great. And also, one thing, we are getting remember Child's Play? Remember Chucky?
Oh, yeah. I used to love those.
That was like my childhood. We are getting not one, but two Chuckies. Here's the thing. We're getting Child's Play, the series. So it's going to be the TV series. And then we are getting another Chucky movie that is the continuation from Cult of Chucky. Now, this is the one that introduced her daughter. Remember, those who want to know or don't really care, she was possessed by the Cult of Chucky. Ended up being people are possessed by the spirit of Chucky. And so there are multiple Chuckies out in the universe. Okay? So the Child's Play series, many people are kind of confused about who is being involved in what. But this is what happens. The Child's Play remake, they're doing a remake, will not involve any of the creators or the actors. So there's no Brad Dourif. So think of this as being, remember when they remade Freddy Krueger and it was really dark and he was a child rapist molester and it was really depressing and it was also really bad? Think of that as this version. They're going to have a whole new Chucky with a whole different cast and a whole new actor, which is really hard to imagine Chucky without Brad Dourif, but it's going to be without Brad Dourif. But the Child's Play, the TV series, is going to have the creators, the writers, even Brad Dourif, maybe even his daughter in the whole show. So that's what we're getting.
A whole TV show?
We're getting Child's Play. It's called Child's Play, the TV series.
Like, what network is it?
They didn't release a network yet.
Okay.
But I do know that MGM is doing Child's Play, the movie reboot, which is someone else. It's going to have a whole other people in it.
So it's not connected.
It's not connected. It's a reboot, and it's not going to have any of the main characters, including Brad Dourif, who plays Chucky. And there's no word on if Jennifer Tilly is going to be in it.
Interesting.
So
this whole trend of rebooting stuff from like the 80s and 90s, I think it's going to continue for a long time. So
yeah, and those Chucky things. I think the Cult of Chucky came out last October. So I think probably every October around Halloween we're going to get another Chucky movie. Which at this point it just feels like it's unnecessary. And I love Chucky, so
cool. So is that everything for entertainment news?
That is everything.
Cool. So let's get on to our main discussion now, which is kind of like an evergreen topic that I put together just because we are in a drought, in terms of video game news. So I wanted to ask you guys, if you could pick one unreleased or canceled game that you actually want to see, see the light of day, basically, which one would you pick? So I'm going to say a few examples of the types of games I'm talking about just to give you a good idea. So, games like Scalebound, Deep Down, Rainbow Six Patriots, Mega Man Universe, Agent, Star Wars 1313, any major game that was announced and, we were kind of interested in, and then it just kind of trailed off and we heard nothing more of it, or it was officially cancelled. So if there's one game you could bring back to see the light of day, which game would you pick and what's your reasoning for it? So does anyone want to volunteer to go first? Because I know this might take some thinking about first.
I think I got a good one, even though it's very hard to choose because there's a lot of games that we hear about that are amazing, especially in concept and even getting to see like footage of them, and they just never come to fruition, which really sucks. But if I had to choose one, I would say it would be Pandemic's Star Wars Battlefront 3, because the way that was being handled at the time, coming off of Battlefront 2 and also coming off of some of the PSP games that were released that had bits and pieces of what Battlefront 3 was going to be at the time. It's a shame that a lot of that stuff didn't pan out, and it had to do with the company losing money, and also I believe it was Pandemic's parent company losing faith in what Pandemic was doing at the time, which is why they shifted a lot of focus towards some of the other studios that were developing the PSP games, and eventually closed down that studio specifically. It's a real damn shame because that was the first time we were going to get from ground to air and air to ground or ground to space and space to ground combat seamlessly on like that PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3 generation of consoles. And that would have been awesome to see. And also we were going to get an original Star Wars story that was based around a lot of the troopers, a lot of stormtroopers and some of the rebel troopers that was still going to be considered part of the canon, telling a certain part of the story in between a couple of the episodes. But with all that stuff, everything just didn't come together all that right. So it's a real damn shame. But again, there's so many other games that you could choose there. You could say 1313. You could say the Mega Man X reboot that was a first-person shooter that just didn't get completed. Like, there's so many.
Yeah, there is a lot. So if you could give a second one, like which one? Like which one besides the Battlefront?
I would say then the Mega Man X reboot. The Mega Man X reboot from Capcom that was going to be done by the Metroid Prime team of all people. It was going to be a first-person shooter. It was going to totally reboot the Mega Man X mythology, where it was planned out to have, I think it was like 3 or 4 games, and it would follow some similar premises set up by the previous Mega Man X games, but you're going to be playing in a first-person shooter. All the Mavericks, all the different robots were going to be completely redone, given different designs that made them look more edgier, a little bit much more mechanical, and a lot more grittier in nature, but still have the essence of what Mega Man X was, but still being played through a first-person shooter lens. And I thought that was really cool. There's footage of it now you could find on YouTube with playable levels, which looks dope. It just looks really, really cool. And some of the other story plot points that were leaked out, it was pretty damn awesome, but that just never came to fruition. I don't know whether it was Capcom that pulled the plug on that game, or it was the Metroid Prime team that pulled the plug on that game, but something happened at that time frame. I think it was like more, I want to say a little bit more than 10 years ago, give or take, where it was being worked on, and then they just stopped developing it. And it's a real shame because they had something really cool going for themselves.
Cool. What platform was that supposed to be on?
I think that was supposed to be PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. I could be wrong. And also GameCube at one point. I could be wrong on that. I would have to look it up. But I know it was right before the modern age of which we're in right now. It was like right towards the end of like PlayStation 2, Xbox original, GameCube era, leading into whatever the next generation was.
Right. That's cool. Those are some good picks. And I think those are picks that not too many people would think about too. So major props on that one. Dana, do you have any picks, or do you want me to go first?
WWE No Mercy.
I knew that was coming.
I don't care if it doesn't count. Also, Justice League. We were supposed to get Justice League. Remember that Superman game, if it is ever coming.
Oh, yeah.
Remember
That's right.
I want my Justice League. I want some Superman in there. You guys already. Wasn't really that excited for Scalebound, but I know you guys mentioned that before. Remember 14 BC? It was canceled just without any explanation in 2014, and it looked really, really great. I think you get to be a caveman, and you get to travel via time machine to these different locations.
Mm-hmm.
So that seemed interesting. Well, we all know about the Star Wars 1313 that never got released. You said already Mega Man. That would have been good as well. Also, remember Aliens Crucible? No? Anyone?
Vaguely.
Multiplayer RPG?
Vaguely.
2000? No, it was canceled in 2009, although it was already kind of completed. And basically, you would have been stranded inside of a space colony infested with the aliens, and your goal was just basically to kill all of them and to survive. No one remembers. That was something I was looking forward to. But yeah, that's gone. Gotham Guy by Gaslight. People don't remember that one. 2009. A lot of games got canceled in 2009. But yeah, they canceled that one. That was by THQ. They used to be good, but they canceled it. I would have loved to play Gotham by Gaslight. Nice Victorian era where he battles Jack the Ripper. Maybe they can do that again, because remember the movie came out. That would have been a great companion to go with the movie. But then again, we didn't have that, so depression set in. Let's see what else. I think that's mainly like the only ones that I can think of. Remember there was like a Isle version of Fallout? I never was really a Fallout person, but I thought that would have been interesting. It was a top-down turn-based RPG.
Oh yeah.
No?
Because I know they used to be top-down back in the day, the original ones, but I don't know. I think they did. Say it again.
Yeah. It was a 3D version. Oh, and also, I'm surprised nobody said this. Silent Hills. Remember that one?
That was actually going to be my pick, but yeah, that's another one.
Yeah.
Sure.
The fetus. You can talk about the fetus. We didn't get a fetus. We just got a glimpse of a fetus, which I do. Here's the weird thing with Silent Hills. I don't think that, yes, it was canceled, but I think that in some weird way they're reviving it with Death Stranding.
Yeah, I think somewhere there's probably some sort of concept that Kojima has kind of clung on to. I mean, of course, he has Norman Reedus as well, but I think he's kind of kept the concept slightly and just tweaked it maybe. But yeah, Silent Hill's definitely going to be my pick, and it's just because I wanted to see what Kojima's vision was going to be for, the Silent Hills series, because I've briefly played some of the Silent Hill games in the past and stuff, but just to have Kojima's stamp on that, like, I really wanted to see what it was going to be like and what it was going to be about and everything. And I was mad that they took the PTR down. The PT down.
Yeah, that was just stupid. But yeah, that was
Yeah.
cold-blooded. But also, many people don't remember there was a Sonic Extreme, which was basically a Super Mario 64 version of Sonic, where everything was open world, and I thought it would have been really interesting to see that. This was like a while ago. Now I don't care anymore because all the Sonic games, aside from Sonic Mania, just like no one really cares about them, and they're really not that great. But at that time, I would have liked to see that. And also, I think there was a volleyball game for Mario. And we were supposed to get a Daredevil game in 2013.
Really?
It's called The Man Without Fear.
Oh, that would have been good. I love the Man Without Fear comic. They should have did.
Yeah, that would have been really, really, really wonderful. But they killed the game, and it was near completion. And I can't remember what, in 2003, I'm gonna say. I'm not sure the year, but yeah, they killed it. And plus, because like no one, it was weird because they looked at the box office numbers. It was like around the same time as when the movie came out, I believe. And it was just a lot of things that just influenced it being canceled. So they just didn't do it. And it's supposed to be like he had the heightened senses, and it's basically kind of like a Spider-Man situation that you can do. And he was going to be like a detective all throughout New York City, but they just never released it. They canceled the game, and that was really unfortunate. So, and I said Superman, the open world Superman game. So, other than that, that's it. And my No Mercy.
Yeah, another one I was going to say as well was Streets of Rage 4, just because I was a huge Streets of Rage fan back in the day, and they were working on Streets of Rage 4 for like what was it, Sega Saturn, I think, and it was going to be like 3D and everything, 3D graphics. It was going to be like the next generational leap for that series, and I believe if they would have made that game, that series might have still been around to this day. Like they might have still been making Streets of Rage games, you know, to this day, if they were able to master a 3D version of it. But that never came to fruition, unfortunately. So, you know, now Streets of Rage is just a nostalgic series from the past to us, unfortunately. But yeah, that's definitely on my list. Because there are, if you look up online, there are concepts of what they were going to do with that game. And unfortunately, they axed it. I don't know why. But yeah, that's pretty much it from me. Any more thoughts? Any more games come to mind, JJ?
I off the top of my head, I mean, again, there's a lot that's out there. There's still games that are technically still being worked on that aren't really canceled, even though at this point we kind of feel like they are canceled. Tekken Cross Street Fighter is probably one of the more recent memories.
Yeah.
That I could actually pick out, because that was a game that was announced and that was talked about. But I think because of the reaction to Street Fighter Cross Tekken and a lot of the other stuff that was going on at the time, I think that Namco or Bandai Namco really kind of just backed away from that slowly, even though they never officially canceled the game. It's like it comes up in conversation every once in a while, but I don't think that game's ever coming out.
Yeah, that's another good pick. Deep Down as well is one that we mentioned earlier. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen what that game was actually going to be, because it seemed like it had potential, but we've had no word about it in recent years, so I guess it's safe to assume they're not working on it anymore. It's cancelled, or you know, I don't know. But yeah, that's another game that's kind of just fallen by the wayside, fortunately. But that's pretty much all I've got. So unless you guys have anything else you want to bring up before we close out the show.
As far as news, no, I'm good for all shout outs right now.
All right, cool. So that's pretty much it from us this week. Thanks everyone for listening to the show and everything. We're going to get straight to our shout outs, and I'm going to shout all the Patreon people. So Dana, what's your final thoughts or shout outs?
Just shout outs to you guys, to the co-op.
Cool. And how about you, JJ?
I guess I could shout out everybody that's listening to the show right now. Shout out to you guys, for being on here. Shout out to everybody that's checking out all the new content we have now on the Koalition website. We got a lot of new reviews, a lot of new unboxings, a lot of new impressions, and obviously other stuff. We got some more things coming very, very soon. I've been working very hard behind the scenes to try to make a couple very big things happen as far as interviews that I don't want to spoil the surprise just yet because I want to make sure certain things get confirmed and whatnot. But there's some very, very big special guests I'm going to be having on TK Spotlight very, very soon, especially if you're into YouTube, if you're into YouTube gaming content and stuff, you're going to be very happy to see who I have as a guest coming at some point. Also, big shout outs to a few companies of Vitrex, and also Echo Gear, because we have new unboxing videos for the Vitrex headset Pro AF right now, as well as also the Echo Gear gaming mount. I don't know if you guys got a chance to see that, but we have all those unboxings right now that are pretty damn cool, with a couple extra ones coming hopefully sometime later this week, if not next week, depending on when stuff arrives here or whatnot. But a lot of good content that you guys should definitely check out, both on the website, on the YouTube channel, and everywhere else. So thank you for checking out all the stuff. Thank you for sharing it around. Again, we have about, I think it's 2,300 subscribers now here on the YouTube channel, which is pretty damn cool. We're trying to get more. Hopefully, if you guys can spread around the YouTube channel, tell people to subscribe if you can. Again, we got constant content going up almost nearly every single day at this point. And we want to make sure that you guys get a lot of great content you can enjoy. So that's all I got for shout outs. Hopefully, you guys continue to support us and continue to keep leaving us feedback and comments whenever you can.
Cool. That's good. Can't wait to see what that interview is. Now you sparked my interest a little bit. But yeah, big shouts to all of our Patreon supporters, Mr. M. Collins, Sean Gority, Stephen Ferron, Mauricio Aguilar, Himdil, Fergus Mills, Miguel, and Antonio Rogers. We thank you all for your continued support of the Koalition. We will be working on, future giveaways and more content to put up on the Patreon very soon. So be on the lookout for more stuff. And I want to give a big shout outs to, all the other Koalition staff out there, Tatiana, Tony Polanco, all those guys who are also doing good work for the Koalition that aren't actually on the show, Max Moller too, big shout outs to all those guys. Richard will be back next week. Big shout outs to the whole Throwdown crew. And that's pretty much it from us. So until next time, peace out, people.